นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ Blessings, good evening. Quite often people in Australia, which is not typically a Buddhist country, they ask why do we have to meditate? Well, nobody has to meditate, it's not compulsory, but what we call meditation, or what in the language of the Buddha we call bhavana, is a very integral, essential part of the Buddhist path to enlightenment. Bhavana really means just development, cultivation of the mind to help us see, realize the truth. As the Buddha pointed out, the reason we have stress and suffering is because we don't understand the truth, we don't see or know the truth. So we get confused, deluded, and caught up in our stressful thinking and suffering in different ways. And traditionally, bhavana, or meditation, is divided into two parts. The practice of Samatha bhavana and Vipassana bhavana, or calm and insight, or serenity and wisdom. There's a few different ways we translate these words, Samatha and Vipassana, but Samatha refers particularly to the cultivation of this state of calm stillness through focusing the mind on different meditation objects. And there's many meditation objects we can try. The breath, anapanasati, or breath meditation, is considered to be kind of the crown jewels of meditation. The most universal and the most effective meditation technique for developing states of calm. But it's by no means the only one. We have the reflections or meditations on the divine abidings, metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. We have the 10 kasinas, the 10 corpse meditations, the reflection on the unattractiveness of food. There's many different meditation techniques that have been employed over the years. But the development of a state of calm, stillness, tranquility is seen as a very vital part of the practice of meditation, because we need to calm down as human beings. A lot of the time we're thinking too much in an uncontrolled way, or our thoughts just lead us all over the place, lead us astray, lead us into worry, doubt, anguish, despair, and so on. So we need a method or a way to help us calm down. So that's what we call Samatha meditation. Vipassana meditation, which is perhaps a more familiar term, more popular term, refers to developing insight particularly into the universal characteristics of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness or suffering, and not self, and observing those universal characteristics both in physical phenomena, so this body or the physical world, and mental phenomena, the mind, thoughts, feelings, memories, consciousness. And observing with mindfulness, with clarity, particularly, say, the impermanent nature of body and mind. Things arising, passing away, that's their nature. And this is particularly to help see through this delusion of self we have accumulated, often without realizing it, by just identifying with this body and mind as some kind of solid, unchanging entity. We just take that for granted, or we just assume that to be true. And the Buddha was encouraging us to investigate that, to question and look and learn from our experience to see whether that is true or not. The practice of Vipassana is not, say, leading you to just believe something or just accept a philosophical belief or a set of theories. It's encouraging us to look and observe our experience more closely, to question or check whether some of these assumptions we have are true or not. So it's very revealing and can be a bit even unnerving at times when you realize something that you formerly took as self, as permanent, as lasting, is maybe not that. But when practiced together with samatha meditation, a sense of calm, you might even say happiness, because a still mind is a happy mind. When you have a basis in samatha meditation, then vipassana is both effective and we can accept the results of it better. Because when your mind is calm or even peaceful, happy, to see impermanence and see a lack of self in experiences, the mind can accept that. When we're not very peaceful, it's hard to accept. It's hard to let go of our views on things, our assumptions about the truth. But often for new meditators, this brings up the question, well, do I do samatha first and then vipassana? Or should I do vipassana first, samatha later? Or which is better? And I'm not sure that there's one real single answer here. Partly it depends on each individual's character, and partly we have to accept that the qualities of samatha, the mind that is calm, peaceful, and the qualities of vipassana, the mind that is investigating or observing truth, they actually go hand in hand. They're two sides of the same thing. The same human mind can and needs to develop both of these things, these qualities. So Ajahn Chah used to say, it's like when you pick up a piece of wood, samatha is at one end, vipassana is at the other end, but when you pick the piece of wood up, both ends come up together. You practice samatha, you can't help but notice, say, the impermanent nature of thoughts and feelings that are coming up as you're focusing your mind on a meditation object. And as you practice vipassana, investigating impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self, when it's going well, you tend to calm down. So it actually supports the stilling of the mind, and the mind feels brighter, lighter, happier within itself, because you're seeing the impermanent nature of things that when you attach to, you suffer, get stressed, get confused by them, or when you're seeing them as impermanent, you start to let go. So you feel better. So Samatha and Vipassana actually support each other and really are inseparable. But because we tend to like thinking about things, we study, we read, we hear talks, then on paper you might say, well, we separate them out as two different things. But it's the one human mind that is practicing them. So these qualities are all developing in the one human mind. How fast they develop is another question. And in this day and age, we're very impatient to see the results of whatever we do in life. Especially with the advances in technology, comfort and convenience. We tend to be more impatient these days because it's a push-button world. So to practice sitting or walking meditation to develop, say, samatha, just to learn to calm your mind, let go of distracting thoughts, let go of sleepiness. It takes time. So often people are frustrated by that. They want quick results for little effort. You might say that's the karma of living in a push-button world. We want the thing we want at the touch of a button. We want our peace, our calm, just like that. We want to know what the Buddha was talking about. We want to know and understand at the push of a button, just like that. So even Vipassana meditation, we're impatient to see and understand the truth. And nobody wants to sit there, legs hurting, watching the arising and passing away of painful feelings. We want to know that they're impermanent straight away, so we don't have to spend all that time contemplating and working through our attachments and our desires and our reactions to things. So the speed of the practice and this constant seeking results, desire for results, is a big obstacle. Even if you have some faith to practice, you have some interest in the practice, some faith in what the Buddha's taught, what you've read, what you've heard. These desires come into our thinking as well and can undermine our practice, make us feel discontent. So you often hear Buddhists saying, oh, I've been meditating all these years, but I haven't got anywhere. And often they'll say, oh, I don't have the barami or the merit to meditate. But having practiced for many years myself and also taught other people to meditate, I think anyone who comes to the point where they're willing to try meditation, give up even if only a short amount of time, that's already a sign that you do have many good qualities, good fortune, you already have good karma, as it were. But you need to develop patience as you practice and set aside that kind of craving, the desire for results, because it can be so much of an obstacle in the practice. So our teacher Luang Por Chah used to say, well, it's just like growing trees, isn't it? Say you're a farmer around here. Yesterday we went into town and went past all the fruit orchards. And I've been living here over 20 years now, so there's some places where I've seen them plant small trees, saplings, and watch them grow up, and now they produce fruit. Maybe even some have been pulled up and replanted. Sometimes trees don't last that long. But the point is, Luang Por Chah said, you plant a tree, you want a tree to bring you apples or pears or whatever it is. It takes time. You have a seed, you plant it, you have to look after it. But how fast or slow it will grow just depends, doesn't it? It depends on many factors. How healthy the seed is, how much rain, the quality of the soil, how much sun it gets, whether there's any pests or diseases that might bother it. All kinds of different factors have a play, have an effect. It's just like meditation. Once you've heard or learnt the basic techniques and you are practicing, well, there'll be many different factors that come up over time. Some of them are personal, just your own particular personality or character, you might say your attachments. Some of the factors are external, the conditions, where you are, where you live, the people around you, the weather, the environment. Well, these will have an effect. There's some places are very disturbing, and it's quite hard to settle the mind. You may have a job that's giving you a lot of pressure, a lot of difficulty. You may have health issues. The world and our life is a very unpredictable thing. So all these factors will come into play. So one thing we also can't do too much is sit there comparing ourselves to other people. Some people seem to go quickly, develop quick results. Some people slower. Because of all these differing factors, we have to accept that. Even in one life, many things change. Our living conditions, our health, and our surroundings change. If you accept the teachings on rebirth, karma and rebirth, well then, the Buddha would say there's many lifetimes at play as well. What you've been doing last lifetime will also have an effect. So suddenly the different factors and conditions on how fast or slow your practice goes extends back innumerable lifetimes. You always hear stories about people who meditate for the first time and suddenly, bang, their mind becomes really still and quiet and they seem to have all these insights. And then there's someone else who's been going at it for 50 years and they still feel they're just struggling, they've got nowhere. But it all depends on these different conditions. We have to accept that. Just as the fruit trees grow and some of them do really well and produce lots of fruit, and some just produce a little bit of fruit, and some are totally barren, and some just die where they stand. It happens. We have to accept the differences. Luang Por Chah used to encourage people just to see whether you're going in the right direction, whether you do feel more patient because of your practice, more patient with yourself, with the problems of life, whether you're more at ease or have some kind of sense of well-being in your life, whether you have at least a little bit less greed, anger and delusion or not. Very simple reflections that anyone can have, even if you haven't learned a lot of the theory of Buddhism. You can observe your state of mind from your state of mind from day to day. Even Sangha can vary. Sometimes lay people look at monks and nuns, they think, oh, they've got all the merit, all the barami, they've shaved their head, put on the robes, ordained, live in the peaceful monastery. They must be getting really, really far ahead in their practice. Maybe they're already enlightened already. But it really does depend on many different conditions. Monks and nuns have their problems just as lay people do. Some lay people manage to get the discipline, simplify their life, maybe remove as many obstacles as they can, and they get quite far in their meditation. Some Sangha have lots of problems, health problems, or just accumulated karma, worries, doubts, different emotions that bother them, and so they seem to take ages just to experience a bit of peace in their meditation. You really can't say with certainty how fast or far people will go in their practice. The important thing is, are they going in the right direction? And are these states of stress and suffering reducing, if only slowly? In the time of the Buddha, there was one group of young monks, 30 monks, came to the Buddha. He was asking them about their practices. And they said, "Oh, it's going really bad. Can't make my mind peaceful." Each one of them was saying that, not just one, all of them. Couldn't calm down. So you might say, well, their Samatha practice wasn't working very well, and then their Vipassana wasn't working at all. They just weren't calm, very full of doubt, agitated. So the Buddha taught them to reflect on the 32 parts of the body. He said, consider each of the 32 parts, and you ask the question, say when you look at the hair of the head, is this self or not self? Hair of the body, is it self, not self? Teeth, nails, skin, go through the organs, the bones, the muscles, all these 32 parts of the body. Just keep focusing your mind, asking the question, is this self or not? And he sent them off to a forest to practice. So they were meditating there, and they were sincere, they had faith in the Buddha, so they put effort into their meditation. But they hadn't got enlightened yet, but they were giving it a go. And nearby in the village, the lay people had faith to offer them food every day, so they'd come out, and there was what we call a sala, a little open-sided rest house on the edge of the village, and they'd come there to receive food. And there was one lady who got inspired and said she wanted to offer food, and she wanted to offer afternoon drinks to the monks. We're allowed to have things like fruit juice, and there's a small amount of allowables where we can have. So she invited them to come and accept an afternoon drink there. And when she offered the drink to these 30 monks, she would ask them how they meditated. So they passed on what the Buddha had taught to them. How to contemplate the body, see the body as impermanent, unsatisfactory, not self. And she had very strong faith. So she went away having heard these teachings, went home and carried on meditating, just like the monks went back into the forest and meditated. And she became enlightened before the monks. All her karma was ripe, all the obstacles must have melted away. She had enough energy, enough effort, enough faith, enough mindfulness, enough insight, and she became enlightened. When she became enlightened, she also gained psychic ability. The mind became very refined, could know many things, so she also could know the minds of other people. So then she looked at all the monks and saw that they weren't enlightened yet. But that didn't sway her. She realized they're still practicing, so she carried on offering food, encouraged them to keep practicing. Eventually, they weren't enlightened yet, so she encouraged them to go back to the Buddha to receive some more teaching. So they went back to the Buddha, and eventually they did become enlightened. But they had been inspired by this woman who got enlightened before them. And maybe it spurred them on. When you see a lay supporter become enlightened, and you think, oh, they can do it, I should do it, I'm the monk. I'm a nun, I'm a monk, I should do it. So she spurred them on to finish their practice. Then there was another monk in the monastery who heard, oh, these 30 monks went to that forest and they got enlightened. And there was this one lady who got enlightened before them, and she was a very good meditator. And he thought, maybe that's a good place for me to practice. So off he went, stayed in the same place. He went out to the sala, the rest house, for his meal, and he met the lady. But he'd heard that she could read minds, she could see his mind, so he got very nervous around her because he wasn't enlightened yet, and he was worried he might think something he shouldn't and she'd know. So he became very shy, timid. But the lady was enlightened and very good person, so she didn't say anything, but she knew he wasn't enlightened. And then she encouraged him to practice, said, I'll offer you food, offer you drinks in the afternoon, just keep practicing. So he did, and eventually he became enlightened. And when he became enlightened, he could remember his past lives. So he thought back, he was thinking, why is this lady looking after the monks, and why am I here in particular? So he thought it back, and he realized that she and him had been very close for many lives. She'd been his wife, had been married in some lives, been a monk in some lives, she'd been supporting him. She'd even sacrificed her life for him in one life, previous life. So he realized she was somebody with a great sense of compassion and was a bit somebody with great sense of sacrifice for the Dhamma. People are like this. We practice for this life and maybe for many other lives. We've done good, we've done bad, we've made karma, good karma, bad karma. We have to accept that because it comes up, gives its results. And sometimes you're practicing very smoothly and then some obstacle comes up, maybe a health issue, or somebody doesn't like you, or you have an accident, or there's some problem in the community around you, the world around you. Or sometimes things go well, and you meet good teachers and good conditions. Sometimes it's something as simple as just the food you eat affects your health, and then your health is not so good, and then you can't settle down in your meditation. Sometimes it's the weather, sometimes if it's not one thing, it's another. There's many, many obstacles we have to go through, and we have to accept that. Probably number one is our own mind, isn't it? Our own doubts. The more we doubt, the more we search around for something. We can't bring ourselves, say, to settle down on a meditation object or to do sitting or walking meditation. We doubt. So we think we'll read a bit more, listen a bit more, try something else, try a different meditation object, or even try a different place. So doubt is one of the biggest obstacles, especially in the beginning. And sometimes we just have to set aside the doubt and rely on some effort, some diligent practice, some discipline, some effort, and just give it a go. Like Ajahn Chah, he said, I'll just give it a go for one lifetime. Very difficult to know anything if you don't give it a go, really. Put a sincere effort in. It's hard to know the truth if your mind doesn't settle down. Like if you don't develop samatha, then your mind is always plagued by the 5 hindrances. It's always distracted or sleepy, worried about this, thinking about that. If we don't investigate the truth, we don't investigate the impermanence of body and mind, then we'll never see beyond it. Keep coming back to this sense of self. So even the thought, my practice is like this, my meditation is like that. Investigate that very thought. Who is the self who is meditating? Who is that person? Who's the person that's having good meditation or bad meditation? Who's the person whose practice is going well or going badly or going fast or too slow? These are all the concepts that we add on, what we think about ourselves and create the self by thinking. We create this person, this being, this personality by thinking it into existence. And the reason we develop samatha and vipassana, develop mindfulness and insight is just to see the conditioned nature of these thoughts. They arise, they pass away. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're not a self, a being, a person. You could say they're just one part of nature. Feelings are just feelings. What do feelings do? They arise, pass away. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Memories arise, pass away. It's what they do. Thought formations arise, pass away. Thought formations tend to condition our views and opinions on everything. What we like, what we don't like. But when you investigate, you ask the question, where is the self in all of that? Samatha helps you to relax the mind, and as the mind relaxes into a meditation object, becomes more still, more peaceful, and then it kind of loosens the attachment to thoughts and views on things. It doesn't mean to say you won't have any more thoughts or views or opinions. It's the attachment that's been relaxed. It's like loosening your grip. If you're holding on to something too tightly, your hand hurts, doesn't it? If you loosen your grip, you may still be able to hold that item. Just something as simple as a spoon or a knife or a fork. If you hold it too tightly, it becomes painful. If you loosen your grip, you relax your grip, you can still use a knife and fork, but you don't hurt yourself. Samatha does that. It helps your mind just to relax a bit so you're not holding on so tightly to every thought, every view, every feeling. Then you can look at it, and that's the looking is vipassana. And you can see feelings arise, pass away. What arises and passes away cannot be a permanent, lasting self. It's not that there's nothing there. There's a feeling, there's a thought. It's simply that it's not anything permanent. It's not a permanent entity that you can call a self. This is the heart of Vipassana. So you loosen the grip, and then you can look carefully at the way things are. When we're still gripping very tightly to our experience, it's hard to get insight. We attach to everything, and we become it. That becomes a person, a being. So my view on things, my opinion, the stronger you attach to your opinion, the more likely you are to feel dissatisfied if someone else has a different opinion, and the more satisfied you are with your opinion. In the end, that's conditioning more suffering. It's all right to hold an opinion or a view, but just to see that it's not a permanent self. It's a conditioned thing, and it may change. One of the results of practicing Vipassana meditation is the way you look at yourself and the world changes. You don't hold to things so tightly. You realize things are a lot more fluid. Your life is more of a process, a fluid process, more like a river or something than a solid rock. Because you see, this body is changing all the time. Thoughts, views, opinions, feelings arising, passing away. They're more fluid, you see that. And that helps you to permanently let go, rather than the weakness of samatha is you loosen temporarily, but when you stop practicing the samatha, you tighten up again. When you practice vipassana, you're loosening your attachment, and it doesn't tighten up again because your insight sees the thing you were grasping at is not self. So you need both together, samatha and vipassana. So don't be in a rush to judge your practice, that it's going too slow, too difficult, too many obstacles. These things are not sure. If you just keep going, things change. But you have to give it time, give it that chance. And maybe I'll leave you with those thoughts tonight.